I still remember the first time I heard someone speaking English. It was when I was 12 years old, sitting on an old couch in our small living room, watching a movie on television. The characters spoke so fast that their words sounded like music to me, a rhythm I couldn't understand but wanted to. My younger brother laughed at a joke in our language dubbing, but I kept staring at the actors' lips, trying to catch a single word. I didn't know what they were saying, but I knew, right there, that I wanted to understand it someday. That night, I promised myself I would learn English, even though I didn't know a single word. At school, English was taught only twice a week, and our teacher, an old man with tired eyes, mostly wrote grammar rules on the board. "This is the verb to be," he used to say, repeating the same phrase over and over again. I copied the words carefully, but they made no sense. I am, you are, he is. I memorized them like a spell from a book of magic I couldn't read. I was afraid to speak because everyone laughed when someone pronounced something wrong. So I stayed silent, repeating words in my head, waiting for a chance to say them out loud someday. My first real connection to English came from music. One day, my cousin brought an old MP3 player and played songs by Ed Sheeran and Adele. The lyrics moved me, even though I didn't understand them. I started writing down parts of the songs I could catch by ear, even when they were wrong. "Love you like a movie," I wrote once, when the real lyric was, "Love you like I'm gonna lose you." My cousin laughed, but I didn't care. Each song became a puzzle to solve. I found lyrics online, compared them, and slowly my vocabulary started to grow. I didn't feel like I was studying anymore. I was discovering. The internet became my new classroom. I remember opening YouTube and typing "Learn English for Beginners." The first video I clicked started with a woman smiling and saying, "Hello! Today we are going to learn basic English phrases." I repeated after her in my room, whispering at first, afraid my family would hear. "Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you." It sounded so simple, but it felt like magic to actually say something in another language. I downloaded apps like Duolingo and Memrise, turning learning into a daily game. I learned to say apple, book, water, dog, and beautiful. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I didn't have anyone to practice with, so I made English my secret friend. I started labeling things in my room: mirror, window, chair, door. I even talked to myself in English while walking to school. I am walking. I am going to class. My friends thought I was crazy, but I didn't care. I felt proud every time I used a new word correctly. The more I practiced, the more I realized that mistakes didn't mean failure. They meant progress.
A turning point came when I discovered movies with subtitles. At first, I watched them in my language with English subtitles. Then I switched the other way around. My favorite movie was Forrest Gump. I watched it again and again, memorizing sentences like "Life is like a box of chocolates." I began to imitate the actors, copying their tone and rhythm. I didn't just want to understand English, I wanted to sound English. That's when I started recording my voice on my phone, listening to myself and correcting pronunciation. It was painful at first. I hated how I sounded. But slowly, my accent softened and I could hear improvement. During my teenage years, my obsession with English grew stronger. I spent hours reading online articles, dictionary entries, and forums. I didn't understand everything, but I refused to give up. Sometimes I would sit in front of my computer for 3 hours just trying to understand one paragraph. I learned that patience was part of the journey. Every small victory, understanding a YouTube comment, reading a meme, catching a phrase in a song, felt like a celebration. Then came a new challenge, speaking to real people. I joined an online group called Language Exchange, where learners could talk with native speakers. The first time I joined a video call, my heart raced. My hands were sweating. When the call started, a cheerful girl from Canada said, "Hi, how are you?" My mind went blank. I froze. I could only reply, "I am fine, thank you." Then silence. She smiled kindly and started asking easy questions, and little by little, I managed to answer. When the call ended, I felt embarrassed, but also proud. I had spoken English with a native speaker. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, correcting my mistakes, and imagining how I could do better next time. After that, I made speaking a habit. I joined more calls, met people from around the world, India, Brazil, Japan, Egypt, and each conversation made me stronger. I learned not just words, but culture, humor, and different accents. I realized English wasn't just a school subject, it was a bridge connecting me to people I would never have met otherwise.
When I turned 18, I decided to take English seriously. I enrolled in an online course that focused on grammar and writing. The first assignment was to write a short essay about myself. I spent hours on it, checking every sentence, every comma. My teacher corrected my mistakes, explaining that "I am interesting about music" should be "I am interested in music." I learned that details mattered. Over time, my essays got better, my vocabulary richer. I started thinking in English, not translating word by word anymore. At the same time, I began reading books. My first was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho in English. The first pages were torture. I had to look up almost every word, but I refused to quit. Every night, I read a few pages, writing down new words in a notebook. A month later, I finished the book. It felt like climbing a mountain. I didn't just understand a story, I understood a dream written in another language. The next stage was immersion. I changed my phone and laptop to English. I followed English-speaking YouTubers and podcasts. I forced myself to live in English every day. My brain started to adapt. Even my dreams sometimes came in English now. I still made mistakes, but I embraced them. I realized that fluency wasn't perfection, it was communication. One of the hardest moments came when I applied for an online job that required English communication. During the interview, the recruiter asked, "Can you tell me about a time you faced a challenge?" I hesitated, but then I spoke from the heart, explaining my journey of learning English as my biggest challenge. The recruiter smiled and said, "That's impressive." A week later, I got the job. For the first time, English wasn't just something I studied. It became part of my life, something that opened real doors. Years passed, and I kept improving. I started writing short stories, blog posts, and even poems in English. I watched my old videos from when I was learning, laughing at my pronunciation and awkward sentences, but I didn't delete them. They reminded me how far I had come. I even began teaching others online, sharing tips, resources, and motivation with beginners. Seeing their progress filled me with joy. because I knew exactly how they felt.
One memory stands out clearly. I was sitting in a cafe when two tourists walked in, asking for directions in English. The waiter couldn't understand them, so I stood up and helped. "You just go straight, then turn right after the bridge," I said naturally. They thanked me and walked away. The waiter looked at me in surprise and said, "You speak English so well." I smiled, remembering the little boy who once couldn't understand a single word on TV. In that moment, I realized something powerful. Learning a language isn't just about words, it's about transformation. It changes how you see yourself and the world. There were still moments of doubt. Sometimes I listened to native speakers and felt small again, like that child on the couch, hearing music he couldn't understand. But then I reminded myself how far I'd come. I didn't need to sound perfect, I just needed to keep growing. English was no longer a goal to reach. It was a lifelong journey, one that kept unfolding every day. Looking back, I see that what really helped me wasn't talent or luck, it was persistence. I studied a little every day, even when I was tired or discouraged. I learned that motivation fades, but habits stay. Some days I felt lost, other days I felt unstoppable, but through it all, I kept going. Now, when I meet people who say, "I want to learn English, but it's too hard," I tell them my story. I tell them how I started from zero, with no teachers, no money, no environment, just curiosity and determination. I tell them that they don't need to be perfect, they just need to start. I tell them to sing songs, watch movies, talk to themselves, read books, and most importantly, to never give up, because every mistake they make is proof that they are learning. Sometimes I close my eyes and remember that night long ago. The boy sitting on the couch, staring at the TV, lost in the rhythm of a language he didn't understand. If I could speak to him now, I would say, "Don't be afraid. One day those strange sounds will become your second voice. You will tell stories, share dreams, and connect with people all over the world. You will make that music your own." Learning English didn't just give me a new skill, it gave me a new life. It taught me patience, confidence, and curiosity. It opened doors to places I never imagined. It gave me friends from every continent, books that changed my mind, and opportunities that shaped my future. Most of all, it taught me that every big journey begins with one small word. And mine began with hello.